From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo, and this is From the South. Mexican police have clashed with a group of Honduran migrants taking part in the caravan heading to the United States. The migrants broke through the Guatemalan border fence trying to reach Mexican territory. Lines of riot police tried to keep them from entering and crossing the bridge between the two countries. Thousands of Hondurans have left their country since the weekend. And meanwhile, Mexico's government has warned the Honduran migrants of the risk they face when entering the country. In light of this, caravan leaders held talks with Mexico's ambassador in Honduras and with representatives of the National Migration Institute. One of the main concerns is their exposure to human traffickers. They also discussed requirements for visa applications. And migrant activist Irineo Mujica has been arrested for allegedly causing damage to federal property. The arrest occurred during a march in favor of the migrant caravan. The National Human Rights Commission has demanded the activist's fundamental rights be respected. Moving on, United States Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Mexican Foreign Minister Luis Videgaray have met in Mexico City to discuss migration issues. Pompeo is visiting Mexico and Central America as a caravan of thousands of Honduran migrants are trying to reach the United States. The Secretary of State described the situation as a crisis.
The way that Mexico will handle this, the way you will handle this, is your sovereign decision. Mexico will make its decision. Its leaders and its people will decide the best way to achieve what I believe are our shared objectives.
This is a challenge, and as I have expressed to Secretary Pompeo, we are a sovereign country. Mexico's foreign policy is only defined by Mexico.
Mexican President-elect Andrés Manuel López Obrador says he will offer work visas to migrants when he takes office. He added this is a way of giving an alternative to those who decide to leave their countries. The president-elect also rejected the threats of U.S. President Donald Trump to stop migrants from reaching the United States. The main body of the caravan of Honduran migrants left Guatemala City on Thursday, heading towards the border with Mexico. In all, the caravan has now grown to some 5,000 people.
Although many could get not a proper night rest due to cramped conditions at shelters, they still managed to set out early in the morning to reach the city of Tecunuman. They say whatever happens, they've ruled out returning to Honduras as an option, because there are no opportunities there.
The government does not look for companies to come to Honduras to generate wealth, and the truth is, we do not have any opportunities.
The United States President has called those who comprise the Honduran caravan criminals, and he's blaming Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador for sending them to the U.S.
We are not part of criminal groups. We are people who need jobs. In Honduras, only high-class people can secure employment.
Severe unemployment is what has driven Hondurans out of their homeland. Now they're desperately searching for a better life.
We don't have enough payment. Our bosses do not give enough money.
The people of Honduras are outrightly condemning the United States threat to withdraw financial assistance to Honduras. They question whether those funds are part of a grand corruption scheme.
They always threat with the withdrawal of money of Honduras president. We do not care about that money. We do not even know anything about that financial help.
I want to talk to President Donald Trump. He's perfectly aware of the situation Honduras is facing right now.
Migrants will have to walk around 10 hours to reach their next step. More people will join this large group of Honduran citizens in the next hour. They will meet in the city of Tecunuman to cross the border and get into Mexico.
Authorities in El Salvador have allowed almost 2,000 migrants to enter the country. Others crossed through the Huascoran River despite difficulties related to high water levels, result of heavy rainfall. Some Hondurans stranded at the border say they are not looking to stay in El Salvador, but intend to continue their journey to the United States. The Workers' Party in Brazil is asking the Supreme Electoral Court to disqualify Jair Bolsonaro as a candidate for the presidency, following alleged illegal messaging on social media. The Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad said Bolsonaro had broken electoral law with the messages. It is alleged that a number of companies spent more than $4 million to promote the WhatsApp campaign and on other illegal contributions to the far-right candidate.
So that there is no disrespect towards me, the fight for my dignity takes place on October the 28th. I will look to rectify the damage from the attacks Bolsonaro has made on the internet, which he has sponsored with dirty money, a campaign of defamation which has no end. I will seek to rectify this at the highest level.
Meanwhile, leaders of the Workers' Party met in the morning with the Supreme Electoral Court to discuss their petition against Bolsonaro. After the meeting, the PT president, Gleisi Hoffmann, said they had the greatest respect for the CSC, but that she is concerned by its response.
I would like to make it known that I came out of this meeting very worried about the Supreme Electoral Court's ability to confront this new situation in Brazil's electoral process. That is, with this fabrication of false news, lies, and their massive dissemination on the internet. I say this because yesterday we presented our legal petition to seek evidence and proof, and we have still no decision. In fact, our petition was made public, and that could lead to destruction of evidence. We are given to understand that the court will deal with our petition according to its usual procedures, as if we were in a normal situation, and that worries us a lot.
And earlier we spoke with our correspondent in Sao Paulo, Brahimir, about what the Workers' Party demands.
Well, it became very clear as Bolsonaro surged in the polls with only 8 seconds of commercial airtime per night that something was amiss, and his campaign was entirely based on WhatsApp, the WhatsApp social media tool, in which thousands of groups of 256 people each were bombarded daily with hate speech, defamation against the PT party, and totally fake news stories.
And on Thursday, Brazilian Catholic, evangelicals, Buddhists, Jews, and believers of African religions marched through Rio de Janeiro to condemn the violence carried out by supporters of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro. Their message was love defeats hate.
In the first days of October, 50 attacks were carried out by supporters of the far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro, according to an investigation by the public news agency. They included serious cases like that of the capoeira master Mao do Catende, murder in the northeast after declaring his vote to Fernando Haddad, and the murder of a trans woman in Sao Paulo, accompanied by chants in favor of Bolsonaro.
At a time when racism, hate, homophobia, and human rights violations are growing in Brazilian society, with an extremely fascist project, it is necessary for sectors of civil society who defend a secular state, who defend religious freedom and diversity, make their voices heard.
On the march entitled Love Defeats Hate, these demonstrators remind people that they are followers of a leader who was himself tortured and murdered, Jesus Christ. They insist that Christians cannot vote for a candidate who supports the military dictatorship and its methods of torture.
We are Christians who fulfill the Word of God, which has a very clear message, that of love, goodness, mercy, and not that of the other candidate, even though he says he's a Christian.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. The prayer of Francisco of Assisi was chanted by demonstrators to make clear their intentions.
We are here as a church, as Christians, to say no to the project of death and say yes to the project that opens a possibility of life for all, especially for those who are persecuted and those who hunger after justice.
The Brazilian people have again demonstrated in the streets against the violence propagated by supporters of the candidate of the far right. With just a few days to go until the presidential runoff, they insist that democracy will defeat hate.
Desde Rio de Janeiro, André Vieira e Sebastián Soto, Telesur, Brasil.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has filed a lawsuit in Ecuador seeking better access to communications as part of his asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Assange has accused the Ecuadorian government of violating his fundamental rights and freedoms. His general counsel, Baltasar Garzón, is in Ecuador to pursue his case. His team will also challenge the legality of the special protocol for Assange announced this week. Also, the Ecuadorian government has expelled the Venezuelan ambassador Carol Delgado. The decision came after Communications Minister Jorge Rodriguez made some comments about the Ecuadorian president Lenín Moreno.
I heard President Lenín Moreno saying that 6,000 Venezuelans in bad health entered in his country. That means that 149 buses had to leave Venezuela daily to Ecuador. Moreno says 1 million Venezuelans arrived to Ecuador, but that is possible only if 140 buses leave Venezuela daily for 7 years.
In response, Venezuela has declared Ecuadorian charge d'affaires Elizabeth Méndez persona non grata and says she has 72 hours to leave. In a statement, the foreign ministry says Moreno lied about the number of Venezuelan migrants in Ecuador and about their health conditions. The communique added that this is a consequence of the latest visit of U.S. Vice President Mike Pence to Ecuador. Ecuadorian supporters of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro have gathered outside the Venezuelan embassy in Quito to condemn their government's decision. Members of the Ecuadorian Committee for Solidarity Amongst Peoples blame the U.S. government for instigating the action.
We demand that this bad decision be reviewed, where those affected are not just the Venezuelan people, but all peoples in our America. Integration, peace in the region is strengthened by the belligerent actions of an outdated empire that seeks to get oil and the enormous riches of Venezuela.
Thanks for the solidarity, and we will continue to work with our fellow Ecuadorians. We will continue to work in solidarity. Tomorrow there will be another flight for our fellow Venezuelans returning home, confirming again the commitment that the Bolivarian government and President Nicolás Maduro has for his fellow Venezuelans.
Peru's President Martín Vizcarra has urged Spain to detain and return former Supreme Court Judge César Inostroza. Inostroza fled the country 11 days ago, facing charges for leading a mafia involved in selling court rulings. This prompted the resignation of Interior Minister Mauro Medina.
Criminals who have fled the country will have to answer before the courts. In this respect, we are sure that Spain, a democratic country, is inserted in the international community, will not protect those who are summoned by Peruvian authorities.
In a historic ruling, Uruguay has approved a law to guarantee the rights of the transgender community. Our correspondent in Montevideo, Mateo Grille, has the story.
The lower house has approved a law that guarantees equal rights to Uruguay's transgender community. It had already been approved by the Senate. An organization comprising more than 1,000 transgender persons is celebrating the decision, as its community has been severely discriminated against. The average life expectancy of a trans person is just 40 years old. That represents a mere half of the country's average life expectancy. On average, many transgender persons are forced to drop out of school at the age of 15. Many leave homes at 18. With this new legislation, the state is aiming to guarantee health, education, and work rights for the trans community. The bill will now go to the executive power in order for it to be made law by the end of the year.
And in Chile, 6 young people were detained in student demonstrations in capital Santiago on Thursday. The high school students were arrested for rejecting the government's bill, known as Safe Classes. The initiative proposes to expel young people who participated in demonstrations from campus. Activists say the proposal will serve to criminalize student protest.
We are here in Plaza Italia to call for a week of disobedience, together with our comrades of Quintero, demanding and saying that we want the educational communities to decide. We don't want to give more power to special forces so that they can come to repress us, because obviously we're going to defend ourselves, because we want the power to be given to the same educational communities. And we know that Safe Class is going to take all of that away, and that it gives power to only one person to decide against the educational community in its entirety.
Violence and terrorism doesn't come from the classroom. Basically, it comes from politics and the business community because it is they who have attacked the emotional and physical integrity of all the citizens. And therefore, we feel that this is outrageous to blame the students because they are defending their lives, their education, given that it is they who have taken everything away from us.
2 student protesters have been detained in Trinidad and Tobago during a demonstration at the University of the West Indies. Police clashed with students who blocked the south entrance to highlight security issues on campus. A series of robberies and violence have been reported in recent weeks, which culminated in the alleged bloody assault on a female student. Campus Principal Professor Brian Copeland attempted to allay protesters' concerns.
System in place, we have a security force in place, we work with the state police. We will next week be commissioning a pilot where an app that has been created that will run on your phone that will expand our security system even more. 1,000 students will be piloting this project as of next week.
If you were a student on this campus, do you feel safe? Would you feel safe? Would you stand here and listen to an administration that is telling you we're doing all we can? It's not enough. The same remedy has failed. When will we see change? When?
The Caribbean has been declared Zika-free by the World Health Organization. The organization made the announcement following the release of data from the Caribbean Public Health Agency. The report showed that transmission of Zika virus had been interrupted for more than 12 months. And Chinese artist Ai Weiwei is set to open his largest exhibition in Brazil, focused on migration and social awareness. His first exhibition in the country is composed of 70 pieces spread across 4 floors. It explores the artist's immersion into Brazilian culture and his time supporting refugees arriving to Greece, among other things. Weiwei is known for highlighting social injustice and political content in his art and lives outside China in voluntary exile. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Women are commemorating the World Breast Cancer Day, dedicated to increasing awareness for early detection and treatment.
According to the World Health Organization, breast cancer is by far the most common cancer in women worldwide, in both developed and developing countries. There are about 1.38 million new cases and 458,000 deaths from breast cancer each year. Incidence rates vary greatly worldwide and are increasing in developed countries because of increased life expectancy, urbanization, and a more Western way of life. 16% of women have or have had breast cancer. The best way for women to prevent it is to carry out regular self-examination, where they need to look for change in skin, malformation, and pain in the nipples. Experts say these simple tips can help women detect breast cancer symptoms early, before it becomes life-threatening.
Very important information for us women. More news now. At least 59 people have died when a commuter train going at high speed in India ran into a crowd. Hundreds of people gathered to watch burning figures during a festival celebration when the train ran through the crowd. This is considered the worst train accident in the country this year. In the latest developments of the investigation into the disappearance of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, Turkish authorities have denied sharing the audio evidence of his alleged murder in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. However, Turkish prosecutors have started questioning the consulate staff.
Turkey has not given a voice recording to U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo or any other American official. Chief Prosecutor of Istanbul has launched an investigation, and we are waiting for the results of this investigation.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Uzbekistan for his first state visit under the country's new leadership in hope of striking business deals. The two countries are set to sign deals worth over $20 billion, mostly for the building of a nuclear power plant in Uzbekistan. The two leaders plan to also reinforce economic ties. And now let's take a look at what else is happening around the world.
Thousands of people have gathered in the city of Kresht in Crimea to pay respect to the victim of a college shooting. At least 21 people were killed and around 40 got injured in the attack. An 18-year-old student started shooting at students and teachers on Wednesday before killing himself. Authorities still investigate the reason behind the mass homicide. Hundreds of Hindu devotees in the Indian state of Kerala have been blocking the entrance to a temple from female worshippers. Since Wednesday, the protesters, mainly men, are against a court order that allows women of menstruating age to enter the Ayyappa temple, which has been banned since 3 decades. About 100 riot police are still battling unsuccessfully with protesters in a bid to escort women to the temple.
The Tantri informed me that if we are attempting to take the women ahead, the Tantri would close the temple. Closing the temple is a ritualistic disaster, which we can't afford. So we have taken them up to the temple, we have given them protection up to the temple, but the darshan is something which the Lord should give with the priests consenting.
Malaysia's former Deputy Prime Minister Ahmad Zahid Hamidi has been charged with 45 offences, including money laundering and corruption. He is the leader of the opposition party, the United Malays National Organization, which was ousted in the general elections in May 2018 after 60 years in power. Zahid Hamid pleaded non-guilty and was freed on bail.
Canada's government will move to pardon all persons with a cannabis possession record of 30 grams or less. Thousands of people stand to benefit from this move. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made the announcement after Canada legalized recreational marijuana on Wednesday. The world's longest sea bridge connecting mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau is set to open for the public next week. The 55-kilometer crossing is seen as an engineering masterpiece, as it includes a snaking road bridge and an underwater tunnel. The construction was pestered with delays, corruption cases, budget overruns, and even the death of workers. Critics see the bridge as yet another way Beijing is further integrating Hong Kong into the Chinese mainland. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And also join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.